All right, so this is one of my more controversial takes, but I think that it's pretty true. I think Carlos Sainz is better than Charles Leclerc, and I think that Ferrari should keep Sainz to get rid of Leclerc, when bringing on Hamilton. But also, I just think that they shouldn't bring on Hamilton at all. I think they should just keep Carlos Sainz. So I'm gonna walk through the numbers and why. So the stats tell this pretty clear picture where Charles Leclerc has been outperforming Carlos Sainz, right? Like 673 to 610 points, 3 wins to 2 wins, 19 podia to 17 podia, and then also Leclerc, beat out Sainz twice. He finished second and fifth. Sainz finished fifth, and seventh. Although this came down to the last race of the year, it was a lot closer. You still have to uh, give it to Leclerc, right? Um, so it kind of paints this really clear picture, except for the fact when you realize that Charles Leclerc is the number one driver for Ferrari. Ferrari are very clear. They gave him a 5-year contract. They gave him another extension. Their money is behind Leclerc, and Leclerc is the face of their franchise, which means that they're you know as everyone points out, one driver's on a winning strategy, one driver's not on a winning strategy. Charles Leclerc is always on the winning strategy. They also configure the car for Leclerc. That's an important thing to remember, right? It's not just a question of making a quote unquote better car. It's about making a car that fits the way that, a specific driver likes to drive, right? Like Max's car is built for the way Max likes to drive, right? But each constructor has to give the same car to both drivers, right? So the second driver is inherently going to be disadvantaged because they're going to build the car for the first driver, not the second driver. So Carlos Sainz is driving Leclerc's Ferrari and is putting up pretty much the same amount of points doing it. He's won one less race, he's been on the podium 2 less times, and again, if it was for the last race, he would have beat out Charles Leclerc 2 times over the past 3 years that they were together, right? That's kind of pathetic on Leclerc's part, and it's also really impressive on Sainz's part. So just to compare this, I know that comparing it to Lewis Hamilton, it's Hamilton, but still, you compare Bottas to Hamilton, right? There's a 600 point difference. Hamilton scored 50% more points than Bottas did during their time together. He won 5 times as many races, and he's been on the podium 19 more times, right? You also look 3, 5, 2, 2, 3, all ones and two, right? And again, look, there's a 60 point difference. There's a 600 point difference. I think only over the course of 3 or 4 years difference, right? So here's why I think, besides that, why Sainz is better. First of all, he had the incredible, impressive feat of winning in 2023. He was the only Red Bull driver to win in 2023. Again, that's crazy, right? This was a year of just insane dominance by Red Bull, and Carlos Sainz was the one who broke the dominance. Now, yes, it was Red Bull shooting themselves in the foot. Singapore is a race that's not built for Red Bull. I can't remember the last time they've won there. They might have never won there. I mean, Max Verstappen has never won there. So, yes, it was an opportune time, but Sainz was the one who took it, not Leclerc. And then also Sainz is a whole lot more consistent. So if you take I think this is 2022. Take 2022 out where he had a lot of issues, right? Sainz pretty much in every single race is gonna get somewhere between 4 and 6. We'll get threes, sometimes, might win, whatever, but he's gonna give you the same amount of points pretty much every single race. He's gonna deliver what he needs to deliver, which doesn't seem that great until you realize that all that really means you just reconfigure the car to be a little bit faster, and Sainz can go from fourth to third to second and can give you those types of points, right? And if you don't have a Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton, Sainz is really the type of old school driver that can between Schumacher and Hamilton, or back when Senna and Alan Prost were driving, right? Where it's really just a question of who can win, who can come in third more, who can come in second more, and Carlos Sainz can do that, right? Versus Charles Leclerc, who retires his car a lot, gets 16th, 15th, Carlos Sainz has never gone that low, right? Gets those a lot, gets disqualified. You really don't know what you're getting with Charles Leclerc. And the thing is that yeah, you know, a second, like puts him over the edge to beating Sainz, but like, if he disqualifies two or three more times, you drop from second in the championship to third, or second or third to fourth, right? But like his strategy of being a lot more dangerous on the track doesn't actually get you to Red Bull, because Red Bull is so far ahead that you're not, catching up to them, right? So all that strategy does is risks your ability to keep on to second or third, but doesn't actually help you get to first, right? So it's like all risk, no reward. But then also I want to talk about something that like I don't think people really give Sainz enough credit for. Like Sainz really improves the teams that he's on. So if you look at Renault, and Renault bought Lotus, so I'm just putting Renault and Lotus together, right? Renault before Sainz, they were 8th, 6th, and ninth. This is like back of the pack, right? But then they got in Sainz and they did 6th and 4th, right? Like that's like a huge jump. And then they were like, "Oh, okay, Sainz. Well, we don't really need you anymore. We brought in Daniel Ricciardo. We're gonna like perform better than you." Nope. Fifth. They brought in a driver who had won multiple races. Sainz has never won a race at that point. Sainz has never been on a podium at that point. His first podium was on McLaren, right? While Daniel Ricciardo had won Monaco the year before, had won, I think, 6, 7 races during his Red Bull time. So they basically swapped out Sainz for Ricciardo, and they ended up doing worse, right? Now look at Sainz and McLaren. McLaren before Sainz, 7th, 9th, 6th. McLaren during Sainz, 4th and 3rd. McLaren after Sainz, 4th, 5th, 5th. So you bring in Sainz onto your team, and your team just gets better, right? Your team, and he talked about this in his Drive to Survive episode. Like he loves to go into the factory, he loves to talk to the mechanics, the engineers to get the car better, right? Sainz is a hardworking, blue collar driver, relatively speaking. Like none of these drivers are blue collar, but he's a hardworking driver who really improves the entire team, right? 7th, 9th, 6th, 4th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 4th, right? And again, he left. They brought in Ricciardo. Ricciardo did worse. Now Ferrari before, I mean, he didn't really improve Ferrari that much, right? But they went second, 6th, third, second, third, right? Like kind of did the same, but that's just Ferrari. They're a top. They're a top team. You can't really improve them that much unless you can get first. Now let's compare this to Leclerc. Sauber before Leclerc, 7th, 10th, 8th, 10th. Sauber during Leclerc, 10th, 8th. Sauber after Leclerc, 8th, 8th, 9th. Didn't change them at all. Leclerc and Ferrari, 3rd, 2nd. Ferrari during Leclerc, 2nd, 6th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd. You can actually argue like Ferrari did worse with Leclerc. I mean, there were other issues, of course, but like Ferrari like actually underperformed with Leclerc, right? And again, I think that this is telling, right? Because like you can say like, oh, it's Alfa Romeo. What's he supposed to do? Like he can't really do anything. You can say the same thing about Sainz, right? But Sainz brought Renault up, while Leclerc just kind of kept the team the same, right? So with this in mind, where will Sainz go? I think the pretty clear destination for Sainz is Mercedes. Because he can't go to Ferrari, obviously. McLaren has Oscar and Lando locked in for forever, but also he left McLaren, so I don't think they're going to want him back. He's not going to want to go onto like Alpine. The question is if Mercedes want him. Like they do have a lot of their own young talent that they might not want to do. Another option is obviously Aston Martin. Question is like if Fernando's willing to retire or not. And then the big question is like, is Max going to leave Red Bull? If Max leaves Red Bull for Mercedes, then obviously that frees up a Red Bull seat. Or if Red Bull takes Fernando Alonso, that frees up an Aston Martin seat. Personally, as a Red Bull fan, I would love Carlos Sainz on Red Bull. Sainz and Checo together, that would really piss Helmut Marko off. Anyway, that's my feeling on Sainz. Why I think he's better than Leclerc. Why I would prefer Sainz over Leclerc. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on X at PLLSKI. Thanks.